This is Open Line on the VOCM Bigland FM radio network.
Welcome back to the show. Let's go to line number 6. Good morning, Nadine. You're on the air.
Good morning, Patty.
Good morning to you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me on. We have just witnessed, I guess, the devastation here in the Cape St. George area. As you know, with all the flooding that we had, the assessment is still ongoing. Applaud going out to our mayor and keeping the residents informed here of the situation and all the updates. However, there were still times that some seniors were kind of anxious and in that little time frame, I guess that we had, the essential services were cut off. To the existing roads, the conditions that we're in. So it's, very vulnerable at that time. I myself had to cancel my parents' appointments for doctors because of the extra ride around the area, 45 minutes. And they could not endure that trip for that long. And even along the roads going over the 45-minute drive and extra kilometers over the peninsula, the roads were deplorable. There were a lot of road washouts along the way, a lot of potholes, and even in one area across in mainland, there was just one way with the roads washed out on either side. And, if that would have been totally washed out, we would have been totally disconnected from everyone on here on the peninsula. So it just gives, the peninsula has been through disasters before, but this has been the worst one yet. How fast it came, the water, and, it was a replay of the 1990s when we had a big flood here as well. But now a bigger concern, with the World Energy GH2 on our doorstep and with the minister's decision tomorrow is of great concern. This peninsula has already had a lot of projects that came in and out, and we had Hunt Oil here up on the mountain, it's going to be a lot of congestion, a lot of a lot of construction. It's going to be to us right now where we're still vulnerable from this disaster that just happened. The assessments are still going on. And like I said, we're having the minister's decision tomorrow. Like for myself and for a few, like what's going to happen, like we have right now in the area. The Roses Brook that was devastated to this flood out, and which was the main road that was washed out in the area. World Energy GH2 is going to propose 13 wind turbines around our watershed here, and that's around the Roses Brook area. So, you have a company that's coming in now to a vulnerable area, and they're going to be proposing 13 wind turbines around that Roses Brook Shed area, which was just devastated by all the flooding. So, it raises more concerns about how this project is going to affect the areas on the Port-au-Port, especially to our area. And, the more you learn about the project and the more you learn about the explosives that are going to be used. And some of the elements is going to be ammonium nitrate and fuel oil. And, these chemicals will certainly make its way into our protected watershed, which will in turn pollute our precious water supply. And you think about the explosions itself, it will disturb the bedrock and it will cause landslides and potential damage to roadways, which are the lifeline here. You have people that are living all along the coastline, and you have World Energy GH2 project proposed right into the middle of the peninsula. They're going to be taking up 40% of the peninsula, And when you think about the residents are all downhill from there, I mean, the unknown risk, we keep saying, we've called in before, this government has a responsibility to do this, to take projects like this in consideration to where people are living. The wildlife. I mean, where's the wildlife going to go? I mean, this is a peninsula. We only have a little isthmus, and the people are surrounded. And how we felt in this devastation last week is, where will the people go if an accident or something is going to happen from these projects? Because no one can guarantee us, and I know you're going to say, and everyone will say, well, we don't know the outcome of this project. But if you go into their EIS, they are not talking about done deal plans, because this has never been done here before. So you have plans that are not really, to us, going to be good enough, because we feel that, all these plans that are coming out is going to be retrospect when they're in the project, because a lot of data, right now is not making us feel that this is a thorough planned project, because it has never been done. So, we are getting anxious there now, because we cannot afford to have any more mishaps, or I guess not mishaps, I would say, but I guess detrimental effects here to our environment, because this is what's actually protecting the residents here now.
Yeah, and, the only new part here is, because wind is not new, the new part would be the electrolysis hydrogen ammonia plants at the Port of Stephenville. So the concept of wind turbines, whether it be in the Shetland Islands or anywhere in the United States or in Europe, that's not the new thing. The new part is how they're going to create that energy for export. So, but I understand people's concerns. I'm really curious as to whether or not the government's going to hit their own self-imposed timeline of tomorrow to be the next update date on world energy. Anything else you'd like to add this morning, Nadine, while we have you?
Yeah, well, what I want to say is that if this government is going to propose any projects, especially on the peninsula here, they must consider the size and the scope of the project is going to be. We have 4,000 people here living on the peninsula, and we should be protected from any development that comes here, because we are a small peninsula, and we need to be protected from any harm that these development or projects will cause the people here.
I appreciate your time, Nadine. Thanks for the call.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome back. Let's go to line number 5. Robert, you're on the air.
Hi, Patty. Thank you for taking my call today.
No problem.
So I just wanted to call in today, seeing Minister Davis's decision is due tomorrow on the EIS submission for World Energy GH2. I just want to go on record in saying that I don't feel that environmental impact statement should be approved in its current state. There's so many questions remaining. There's the studies regarding wildlife. It's a lot of it is saying will be determined and monitored, and corrections or what's it called? Protections after the fact, or that'll be determined at a later date. So the amount of missing information, and especially the area for the Cadroy Valley, I believe it was, that they don't have the overlay for the people to get an idea of what the wind farms will look like there. But just overall in general, for all of these projects, if Minister Davis does approve this, even with conditions, it sets a precedent that an incomplete EIS can get through our processes, which is a dangerous thing in my opinion. I know it's common to have assessments released with conditions, but in my opinion, with the scope of work and the consequences related to this, then I believe that everything should be presented to the public beforehand, and I believe that he should be able to have, I believe he's got an opportunity to hold public debate about it, or forums.
But is the minister really the right person to hold a public debate forum? Because he's the Minister of the Environment as opposed to everyone who's playing some sort of active role in the assessment. And isn't it pretty standard practice, not to say it's good or bad, but when a conditional approval is granted, then the final approval is not met until conditions are also achieved, right? Isn't that how that always works?
That's correct, yes, but there are cases where the companies just go ahead without providing the requirements as well. So, but overall, I think just like Mike said earlier, I'm not the smartest or not the sharpest knife in the drawer, but I'm definitely not a spoon here. But I just want to go over just the whole thing in basic terms for everybody in case they don't understand fully what's happening. So, in the big scope of things, in basic sense, what we're planning to do is take federal investment money and private investment money from overseas investors to give to these questionable businessmen with no history of being concerned about the environment at all and a large history of subsidy harvesting in order to purchase turbines from Europe or China, ship them over here, destroy thousands of acres of our carbon capturing forests and our carbon storing bogs and fens, deep bogs. In order to install these things, then the construction alone is going to cause a lot of irreparable damage to the environment, including the blasting, the construction of roads. Then once they're in operation, they're going to be destroying and displacing our wildlife. They're going to require ongoing maintenance. Once the ammonia is created, they're going to take the energy from the turbines, bring it to centralized plants such as Stephenville or in Botwood, create hydrogen by removing water from our ecosystem at a rate of millions and millions of liters a day. That, again, is separated from this molecule, so it's not going to enter the water cycle ever again. Then they convert that hydrogen into ammonia. Then the ammonia gets shipped overseas using ammonia transport ships that will need to be manufactured for this new industry. Then the ammonia gets to Germany. The German government converts it back into hydrogen, or the businesses over there, not the government. So then once the energy is converted back into hydrogen in Germany, it's at about a 20% efficiency from when the energy was created from the wind turbines on the island here. So then that hydrogen in Germany is going to be used to further their economic and in this industry over there. So the large industry in Germany is actually steel production. So once they make the steel, it's going to making turbine parts to send back over to Newfoundland to make more wind turbines.
But the steel industry can't be fueled by hydrogen, though. I mean, that's one of the big industries on the face of the earth that still requires fossil fuels for the heat and intensity.
Exactly. But this is what they're planning to do. They're planning on using hydrogen in order to power. I think there was articles online that I read about converting or using hydrogen in order to create it. But what I'm saying is that it's going to be creating power for their grids, and the power is used for their grids as well for their industry and their steel production. So then a lot of the energy is going to be used to create parts to send back here at a loss. So this is what I'm trying to get at. So,
but the fundamentals, though, Robert, is that hydrogen cannot be a primary fuel source for the steel industry. It just doesn't have the intensity and the heat that is required, which is a fossil fuel, still in the industry reliant on fossil fuels. So Germans are talking about heating people's homes with hydrogen to, generate power for the grid, as opposed to big, large-scale industrial complex, because it simply doesn't have the power that is required for those industries. Steel, notably.
Yes. So, again, we're going to be providing power for the companies that are creating the products to send over here. And if they're not using... So then if we're creating a bigger demand for steel by creating a demand for the shipping vessels, the plants, the turbines, and again, turbines, like you said, steel is made from fossil fuel, so the large portion of that is from the turbines, and not just the blades. The steel, like you said, is required for make the turbines. So if we're creating all these turbines, we're not really helping the environment by lowering the carbon emissions. We're exacerbating the issues by making more demand for steel and industry. So, and again, another thing. So once I asked Ravi about shipping the material to Germany, and he said, well, they're going to use ammonia as a shipping fuel for the ships. So right now there's a company in the works that's trying to make that a feasible product. But the issue with that is that when you burn ammonia, its chemical formula is NH3. So instead of CH4, which is carbon and methane gas, natural gas, or any fossil fuel, it's a carbon chain, they're replacing carbon emissions with noxious gas emissions, which is nitrogen oxide and others, which is much worse for the environment.
Aren't wind turbines primarily made of carbon fibre and fiberglass?
And what's that?
Aren't the wind turbines, the blades, primarily made of carbon fibre and fiberglass?
Yes, and where does fiberglass and carbon fibre come from? It's an oil derivative. And it releases BPA from the leading edge wear into the environment. So there's a this is just a cyclic proposal that will ultimately do more harm for our planet. And as Veronica Sullivan said in an open letter that was posted on the EnviroWatch Facebook page, I believe it was a quote by Albert Einstein: "We cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them." So we have an issue with emissions from industry, yet we're going to reindustrialize the world by creating a huge, massive demand in mining and oil in order to greenwash people into thinking that they're doing a good thing for the planet. So these multinational billion-dollar investment companies can profit off of our resources, and the only thing that Newfoundlanders are getting for it is a promise of jobs, which are going to be short-term jobs for the construction. And then once the projects, if the projects do get completed and they do get to market without continued ongoing federal subsidies or taxpayer subsidies from Canada and Germany, then every single one of these projects are destined to fail because the prices cannot compete on the world market. And to prove that, I asked Ravi in his meeting on November 6th, what is the expected cost of production versus market sale price of his ammonia? And his answer to me was, it doesn't matter how much it costs, we're still going to be profitable. So that is very concerning to me, that somebody who's proposing a multi-billion-dollar project that grew from $3 to $6 billion originally when it was announced and is now up to $10 billion, that he doesn't know how much it's going to cost to produce the tons of ammonia that he's suggesting, but he still thinks it's going to be profitable. So the whole thing is just completely asinine, in my opinion, and I don't understand how anybody can honestly believe that this is a good idea.
Appreciate the time as usual, Robert. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, sir. Take care. Bye-bye.